Welcome to the FRCL Weekly Call. We're a group of distribution leads who get together regularly to discuss works in progress, share ideas, and create opportunities for cross-distro collaboration.
25th of March, and we are here to talk about CRA today in the community space. So we are joined by Roman Zukov. Roman, am I saying your name right?
Yes, that's all correct.
Okay, cool. And I think there's a short presentation. Yes.
Let me know if it is going.
Awesome.
Yeah, good. Thanks for the intro. Hi everyone. So happy to be here. I am Roman and I work for Red Hat. I'm responsible for security community engagement here, and also a little bit for the CRA things that we do as a community and as a company. I'm based in Ireland, but now currently I'm in the Amsterdam, which is equally rainy and ugly today. But I hope it will be better tomorrow. CRA stands for EU Cyber Resiliency Act. Thank you very much. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach to responsible CRA stewardship, what that means, and what CRA means in general, of course. I have like around 5 slides, I think, but I wanted to make it a discussion. So if you have any questions, just please raise your hand, interrupt me, and we can discuss. Okay, let's move on. Okay, yes, this is work. Yeah, that works. So why Cyber Resiliency Act, or CRA? Very simple, to safeguard your European consumers of digital products. So the goal of the regulation is pretty simple, but in other words, the CRA is EU-wide regulation, which means law applicable to all EU 27 member states that establish essential cybersecurity requirements for digital products. In few words, those requirements are around reducing vulnerabilities, ensuring cybersecurity is maintained through secure development lifecycle, aka SSDLC, and enable users to make informed decisions when they're actually selecting and operating those projects. And one important thing, it also acknowledges the role that free and open source software, we will be using acronym FOSS, plays in the global software ecosystem. This is really the first time in the law open source software appears and recognized as a critical one. Therefore, it explicitly defines the separation of the two roles, manufacturers and open source software stewards. Think of manufacturers as vendors, those who does software and sell software or something around software for money. Think of open source software stewards as the foundations that support. I have the further clarification on the next slide, actually. What is important to take away from this quick slide is there are obligations. Since this is a regulations, there's going to be requirements. And the requirements are both for manufacturers and for those open source software stewards. And finally, the timing, September 2026, which is quite around the corner, vulnerability reports and obligations will kick in. And by the end of 2027, the law will be in the full force. Again, large applicability to everybody who operates, sells, or does something with the EU. And fix the cheese. Thank you, Jason. That's the intention. Finally, to fix all the bugs and vulnerabilities in the software and in the products that are on the market. Now, applying how CRA applies to the commercial open source development. I think that may be clear with the normal products like IoT devices, mobile phones, laptops, and etc., like those physical products, how it applies to software and how it applies to open source software specifically. This is a simple picture, right? And there is no secret here. For example, the RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system that Red Hat supports, we kind of sell support for our customers and partners. But if you walk back on this picture from the RHEL, which is this black box to the left, we also have Fedora and CentOS as the essential upstream components of the RHEL operating system. And of course, we have Linux kernel, which powers all the Linuxes out there. So this kind of simplified supply chain. Now, the CRA defines somebody like Red Hat as a manufacturer who actually charge money for the software that they put on the market. Linux Foundation on this picture would be software stewards for Linux kernel, because they don't charge money for Linux kernel itself, but rather they provide the essential support and ensure sustainability of Linux kernel. At least they tell us they do, right? So, and just because they provide those sustained supports, they hold some also legal stuff, some trademarks and etc. They are identified as a software steward for Linux kernel specifically. And for Fedora and CentOS, that's going to be another steward, which is Red Hat, which actually holds the similar role. We support both Fedora and CentOS in many ways, and therefore we are clarified as a steward for these two projects. So this is a simplified picture, but you can actually apply this for all the software that's out there, just to give you an understanding. And the CRA is a law, and this is tough. And I do understand, as an open source contributor as well, I do understand this is kind of what law. I don't want to do anything with the regulations at all, right? Especially with security regulations. But these relationships, this relationship that put into the CRA is quite interesting because it is compliance breach. Stewards ensure sustainability of FOSS components of open source upstream projects and make sure they follow security best practices that enable manufacturers to build compliant commercial products, and that subsequently make customers happy. And all of us live in the world without vulnerabilities with secure products, right? Okay, now I'm here to give you some examples about how Red Hat approaches these things. We have, of course, a lot of partners, and other companies may take it differently, but we take that we call the responsible stewardship approach, because we really would like to continue providing sustained support, either for the project that I mentioned as an example on the previous slide, and of course for dozens and hundreds of other projects that we support. So this is our mission, and we very much wanted to continue to do so. Just to clarify, this is very important. One of the most popular questions to me is around FOSS communities. As I'm a maintainer, or as is open source project affected by the CRA, I would say that FOSS communities and projects, they have no obligations under the CRA, and they actually don't need to have a steward necessarily, right? And not all open source projects will have a steward, right? Because I think 99.9% open source projects just maintained by one or two persons, and they will not be a steward for those projects. So FOSS communities and projects, they have no obligations under the CRA at all if they don't monetize their project, if they don't charge money for the project itself, and they are not obligated to have a steward. This is super important to clarify and to understand. The complication is that the stewardship, on the other hand, is not a choice, because the obligations for the companies like Linux Foundation, Eclipse, Apache, FreeBSD Foundation, Python, or Red Hat, or Google, or Meta, or NVIDIA, for their projects that they provide this sustained support for, they are obligated, they have obligations, right? Because the stewardship obligations kicks in once this sustained support is provided. Therefore, this is kind of the interesting situation when open source projects don't have to have a steward necessarily, but the companies who provide sustained support can't really opt out not to be a steward unless they drop all of the support that they provide, which is sudden and is not a goal at all of the CRA. And there is no kind of clear 100% clear definition about this sustained support. As you can see on the slide, I just brought a few examples. It could be technical supports, such as providing hosting platforms, of course, contributing engineering resources, writing code, and etc. But also it could be non-technical support, like managing branding, managing licenses, providing IT infrastructure is also kind of technical support. But could be something else that those companies kind of help with project itself. Again, the outcome of this to understand is sustained support defines the kind of legal status of the stewardship. Now, obligations. I would say the CRA is already, of course, published and it's already official, right? It's just delayed of applicability of some obligations, as I mentioned, to this year and to the 2026. But this is already public. But if you read the text of the CRA, it's not quite clear what exactly products or projects should do or stewards should do under it. The law defines like a buckets or high-level requirements for the stewards, which are implementing cybersecurity policy, encourage vulnerability reporting for the projects that they're stewarding, cooperate with authorities, with the member state authorities, also reports exploited vulnerabilities and reports severe incidents in the infrastructure. For example, what if your build system is compromised? So if it leads to severe incidents, stewards are required to report this to authorities. And the very important clarification here, the full CRA compliance for Red Hat and for other companies, for other commercial companies as a manufacturers for downstream projects, in our case, such as RHEL or OpenShift or Ansible automation platform, is covered by us, by companies themselves, by internal processes. Those obligations that are on the slides are for stewards and subsequently kind of touches the open source upstream projects. Everything that's for products, for commercial offerings that are fully in hands of the companies that sell or provide the paid support for these products to customers. So this is not the in scope of today's presentation. That's what I'm trying to say. So manufacturers' obligations are quite extensive. There are many more rather than you see on the slide, but on the other hand, it's irrelevant for community projects entirely. Closer to Red Hat goals. Red Hat's goal is not to introduce unnecessary burden for open source projects when we approach this stewardship. Again, it's kind of interesting situation, and the beauty of the CRA that is on the one hand introduces requirements and even FOSS ecosystem affected by those requirements, but on the other hand, it promotes the good security practices, which should be the cornerstone of everything that we do. Therefore, we kind of don't want to introduce unnecessary burden to projects, but because of the types of the sustained support that Red Hat provides for certain open source projects, and I brought a few examples on the previous slides, like CentOS and Fedora, for example, it is required to meet the CRA open source stewardship obligations for those projects for us as a steward. Okay, and to approach this, we developed two-tiered approach to the stewardship. We identified the two types of the projects, the champion stewardship and the light stewardship approach and Fedora and CentOS both fall under the champion stewardship. That means the kind of key projects, mature projects, super popular, that's the whole kind of universe is dependent on. And we aim to foster top-tier practices of quality and security for those projects. And we plan to use the CRA as a catalyst to actually help these projects with improving security posture. So the real security, engineering-centric, security community-centric approach is a key. But you know, we use the CRA as a driver, if you will, right now to make it better. So for light stewardship, we just aim to meet the bare minimum obligations outlined in the Cyber Resiliency Act. Actually, you can learn more about our non-negotiable community first principles and concrete requirements and etc. In public, there is the public tickets that we submitted to Fedora community as a CRA approach. Then you can read about our principles, and we built those principles on purpose so that we can make it as community-centric as possible. Again, we don't want to interrupt. We don't want to create some nonsense things. We wanted to understand what's happening right now and find the right way together, how to approach, how to navigate these things. On the other hand, by providing like a legal umbrella, if you will, to the project itself. There also are Red Hat stewardship guidelines. They are currently in kind of internal phase, but we are going to publish them very soon. Please be on the lookout of the announcement about this. Those guidelines are pretty comprehensive and outlines not only the basics that I'm talking about, but also like precise requirements and some of the examples, how projects could navigate those requirements. To finish off, to ensure successful CRA readiness for FOSS ecosystem as a whole, we would suggest let's review Red Hat stewardship proposal together with the projects. And of course, we are super curious about what broader ecosystem thinks. And yes, I mentioned we have actually 11 responsible stewardship principles that we are gonna follow. I brought some examples like community-centric approach, developer-centric approach, security first, paper second, something like that. We wanted to discuss and build a reasonable CRA roadmaps together with communities and help to navigate all of these complexities. And we want to very much to enable community to execute the agreed roadmaps following your processes. I would say we're not alone on this journey. We are collaborating with other partners. If you have heard about the CRA-related initiatives that are undertaken in OpenSSF or Eclipse or Apache and other foundations, we are well connected with all of these groups. Moreover, we drive some of these efforts like leaders to actually pave the right path so that the CRA is not scary, CRA is approachable in the meaningful way by different types of communities, because we recognize this diversity, this diverse nature of open source communities. And we really would like to make it right, and we really would like to continue to kind of sustainably support all open source communities that we currently contribute to. You can learn more. There are links on the slides. I will share links afterwards. This is the CRA page on Red Hat site, which is public, but I just tried to bring some curated list of the materials about the CRA related to communities and to open source that you can read. A couple of blogs, educational materials, free class about the CRA, and of course, official page on the EU Commission website. So that's all. I feel like I gave a mini lecture, but I really wanted to open it up for discussions. What do you think, guys, about the CRA in general?
So I think Alexander had a question in the chat, and for everybody else, just like raise your hand and we'll go through it.
Maybe before jumping to the question, I will comment that I feel that there's a lot of like fear that we're all gonna immediately start fighting with CRA and whatever. And like, I'm not sure what the mood in the room is, but just as a Fedora Council member and also a European, I just wanted to say that I actually like the ideas behind the CRA approach. And I think we should work together with this, and like, we don't need to be too worried and too scared of this. Like, it's not some whatever. It's a reasonable approach. We should figure it out. Yeah. And then the question I had in the chat was, you explained that one example of a steward would be Red Hat, but the other example for the steward would be Linux Foundation. And
Right.
Is there a difference in non-profit, for-profit steward and non-profit steward in terms of like obligations and whatever, or is it all the differences between steward and manufacturer?
Yes, that's a good question. There is no kind of visible difference stated in the CRA or in the other implementing acts between the non-profit steward and for-profit steward. And originally, before we had the clarifications and the FAQ by Commission, and then now we have the draft guidance, which I hope will be final very soon. Until this, the EU thought that the open source software stewards can only be a foundation. Well, not for profit entities, let's put it that way. But then we kind of educated them, and we do it frequently. Before this college jumped off the call with the EU Commission, educating them once again on how open source works and etc. Now it is clear that Steward could be also a commercial company. But in terms of obligations, there is no difference. They have exactly the same obligations. However, stewards should be very, very careful not to cross the line to become a manufacturer. And in the new draft guidance, I will post link to the chat to this. It's public. They have this nice chart how to identify whether your charts, I mean flow chart, how to identify whether you're steward or manufacturer based on what you do with your projects. And unless you cross the line of monetization of the project itself, you should be fine. It doesn't become the product that is placed on the market. And we are trying to make it super clear also for things like organizing conferences, selling the books, providing the additional educational materials, which of course could be for profit, right? But not necessarily related to the product itself, and not necessarily correlate with the kind of security-related obligations for the manufacturer. We try to include it explicitly to the guidance, but so far we feel more and less comfortable that should be the case and the understanding.
For Neil.
Yeah, I mean, so this presentation actually makes me think Red Hat counts as a manufacturer and not a steward for Fedora, because they do activities around Fedora being a delivered product that would fall in that line. So, for example, they work with Lenovo, Red Hat works with Lenovo and produces reports and documentation and does engineering work specifically for delivering Fedora Workstation on Lenovo computers. So this reading that we're talking about here, again, being kind of naive, but this reading I'm talking about here makes it sound like Red Hat doesn't count as a steward, but counts as a manufacturer, because there's commercial activity related to Fedora deliverables as a product. So, how does that actually fit in this story? Otherwise, I mean, honestly, I don't really care. I think the CRA is fine. The way that things have, I watched how it played out, and I'm reasonably comfortable with with accepting the CRA's existence in reality as it heads into enforcement in the next year. But that's kind of like right. My concern is really that blurry line, because the activities that I know Red Hat does on Fedora like from a layman's perspective, sure sound like manufacturer and not steward. So what do?
Right. Yes, that's another very very good question, and the new draft guidance also clarifies those things a little bit, that the actually the same project could be both like the same open source project or the similar open source projects could be both a product in the meaning of the CRA PD product with digital elements, and therefore the entity who supports and sells this, not sells, but to be very precise, put the projects on the European market would be the manufacturer for this. Therefore, that is, that should be the clear distinction. I have like not the full understanding how kind of Fedora collaborates with the Lenovo, but if if Lenovo is a manufacturer, puts their own products on the market and include Fedora, it's could be possibly like Fedora for Lenovo version, right? Because it's like, as you said, it may contain some additional paid things that is not available maybe from the Fedora. So this could be like the guidance defines this super simple like community version and something else like paid version. It does not necessarily need to be like RHEL versus Fedora. It could be like something community version and something like an enterprise edition. So
yeah. So the reason so maybe I should just quickly clarify what I mean here just before we let other people step into this. The bits are identical. We're basically giving people the same thing that you download from the website. It's being preloaded onto a computer. What is different is that for OEMs like Lenovo, Red Hat has produced documentation for compliance and legal support to allow them to ship Fedora Workstation on Lenovo computers, as well as done engineering work specifically around bug fixes and in hardware enablement and that sort of affair. This is where I feel like there's a little bit of a blurry line, and that's why I'm trying to, like, I'm asking this question to kind of get a better understanding, because it's not that the software is specifically different, because there is no community versus enterprise thing, but specifically Red Hat delivered extra stuff for Lenovo to ship Fedora. And that is where, again, my naive understanding of the CRA is what crosses the line from steward to manufacturer. But again, I don't know for sure. That's why I'm asking.
So I have a suggestion here. So like by way of backstory, inside CLE, we've been talking to Roman for like the last 6 weeks. And the first 5 of those weeks were kind of like running in circles, just the way we're trying to right now. It's like, oh, what about this specific thing? And on and on and on. And the reality is that we actually have to iterate. So Roman, let me just like do a reality check here, because I think what it is that our responsibility is like this big if we are doing minimal stewardship, this big if we are doing champion stewardship, and this big if we're a manufacturer, right? Like it's just tiers up basically. So yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, then what I have a question for. So we've got members of the CentOS board here. We have members of FESCO. We have members of the Fedora Council. And we've been through a thing like this previously with GDPR. This is something that we're going to have to iterate on. Like we don't have a choice in this, and I don't think we want to have a choice in this. It's actually, it seems like it's going to be a net positive thing for people in the community spaces that we're talking about. But it's going to be work. So Fedora Council, FESCO, CentOS board, how do you want to be engaged on this? Because so far we've got 1 ticket and 1 queue, and that's probably a great start for one of you, but it's not everything for all of you. And Justin, your hand is up, and you're a member of the Fedora Council. So can I repurpose your hand for this?
Yeah, if you can help guide it towards, so thinking about, I mean, there's a couple of ways I feel like we have to think of it in almost like a decentralized way, because I think if we try to take things in a centralized, single approach to try to bring about compliance. That's going to be what creates a lot of friction if it's only top down. The reason why I was thinking about that is because we were talking, I think also ties into what Neil was getting at, because, for example, I don't know if this is 100% what Neil was thinking about, but around Fedora, we have the Fedora marketing team has informally opened a program called Fedora Ready. And this is why I think it's relevant on because we also have this thing about remixes that have been around for a very long time in Fedora. And that's something where, you strip out the Fedora trademark to create your version. That's like what Red Hat does with the Linux CSB that Red Hat employees use. It's a Fedora remix, which is legally distinct from the Fedora project. It's different assets go into it. Different things get put into that than what we ship on fedoraproject.org. When we work with a hardware vendor like Lenovo and others for Fedora Ready, we actually take a painstakingly, I think it's worthwhile both for users and the project to make sure that they're running the same images bit for byte that we're shipping on fedoraproject.org. That's part of what they have to do and verify us that, for example, they're not loading in their own third-party repository or putting in their own proprietary software, because then at that point, what they should be doing is a Fedora remix, because they're building something distinctly. It could even be, 5 lines of code, but that's still something from our perspective that should be a remix, because we're not putting that in the distribution that we ship on fedoraproject.org. So I think that might be a question, thinking about how we drive this. Fedora Ready might be one place, engaging with the marketing team to try to think about, how are our vendor partners thinking about this? Because we do have some that are based in Europe, like Slimbook in Spain. So we might be able to get a sense of how are our vendor partners and the hardware partners thinking about this? If that's something that is a concern and that people ties in with Neil's question. And also maybe it's something that we're not going to, I don't want to take that liability for sure, but maybe our hardware partners will have to have some, I don't know if that might impact their relationship with us if they're going to have their Fedora Ready and then they're on the hook for more things than maybe what they might. A lot of them do provide user support, to be fair, and that's awesome, but maybe not all of them have the same level of user support. And, those are all questions I think people are going to bring up as we go. So that's to kind of answer your question arc there, Brendan. I think we're going to have to find different spokes and wheels where we need to be advocates. And that might be one on the infrastructure side, looking at how we did it with GDPR, which was kind of right around the beginning of my time at Fedora. So I'm sure there's some folks here that have a perspective on how we handled that and what that process looked like too. Over.
Thanks, Justin. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, so as Brendan said, I've actually been in conversations for a few weeks now on this with Roman, and the way I look at it is we do need more fine-grained tickets, and I look at it this way. There are net new things that are basically helping us with the requirements around reporting processes that don't necessarily interact with existing contributor process, right? It's more of a net new set of reporting requirements that Red Hat feels that they are obligated to do because they are obligated to be a steward for the project, and which we will probably internally need to commit resources to make those things happen. But those need to be tickets probably with FESCO around what those processes look like, just so that they're the right technical feasible, knowing that they are net new reporting processes, right? Any process where we're asking the contributor to change a workflow also needs to be considered in a granular ticket fashion with FESCO, I think. I know there's some things in the list and the champion stuff that will impact, requiring, for example, MFA for developers who are doing things. And we need to talk about that, right? Because there's some things in there that will make sense, obviously make sense to Red Hat to require of their employees who are engaging in this project from a self-reliance point of view. And we need to understand if these are reasonable things to ask of all the contributors to do, versus contributors are working ostensibly on paid time, right? And not just Red Hat, but maybe other stakeholders. That's a fuzzy area, and we probably need to parse that out separate from changes that are just net new reporting requirements. Because if we get into requirements on contributors, that's going to be a little hairier. So that's my advice on like taking those things out. At the council level, I think we need to understand that there is a role here for stewards, plural, as part of how policy is developed, right? This is sort of a role that is a governance role. It has a governance aspect for the project, and it's not necessarily just Red Hat. Red Hat knows that they've identified themselves as steward, but I'm actually anticipating that this could be a collaborative process. And if we had another downstream vendor who decided that they have material investment in such a way that they feel like they want to be or obligated to be a peer steward, we should have a process that allows that to exist. So it's more like an advisory role that informs policy. But it needs to be structured moving forward, because this isn't going to go away, right? This is a journey, a path that we're walking, and the steward is a new concept that we have to integrate. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So we've got a read from 2 members of the Fedora Council. What about FESCO? How does this look to you? Want to have a FESCO hat on?
It's fine. I'm not that worried about it. Like, in general, the CRA, following the CRA as, as a FESCO person, I don't think there's actually a whole lot we're going to have to deal with or change, because the carve out for open source communities is pretty broad. I'm more concerned about commercial adjacent stuff, which is not directly in the remit of FESCO, but is going to smack us in the face a few times as we go through this, as the CRA goes into enforcement. And, other jurisdictions are considering their own equivalents of this over time. So that's where the bulk of my concern is right now, because, I'm actually more concerned about the non-Red Hat ones than the Red Hat ones. Red Hat is the one organization that I probably could care less about how this works out, because they're already going to figure it out. It's everybody else, like for Fedora Cloud, Fedora KDE, all the other places where Red Hat doesn't give any support that other organizations are doing for us instead. We need to have a model of acknowledging that and incorporating them into Fedora with some formal recognition. Right now, that doesn't even exist, even though they've been contributing a lot into the project. So that's something that's going to have to change. But again, it is not my problem to worry about. That's Jeff's problem. So I just don't really think about it, and I'm not really concerned about it. The classification stuff is pretty much the only thing I directly as FESCO have to care about, because this means this is something we have to think about from the feedback loop between stakeholders, FESCO, and in theory, council as well.
Okay, so Stephen, I see your hands up. But before you speak, I just want to say one thing I'm hoping we can take out of this is, when should Roman engage with FESCO, or is it sufficient to just work the Fedora Council ticket for now? So Stephen, go ahead.
To answer that, he should, you should, I guess I should talk directly to you. Reach out to FESCO at any point where where a decision has been made that requires any kind of a change in the way that the project does stuff, because that's pretty much all in FESCO's remit. We can help you navigate the processes and the communication for that. Right. So yes, exactly, Jeff's contributor workflows, or yeah, more so than anything that an end user contributor might have to change. But I was going to say actually that in general, I agree with Neil. I'm not too specifically worried about the CRA in terms of Fedora, except insofar as Fedora is not as insulated from Red Hat as some other communities are, just simply by the nature of the fact that Red Hat controls us to a greater extent than an independent foundation. And I have slight worries that a malicious actor could seek to cause harm to Fedora and Red Hat by simply tying us up in unnecessary legal drama that we would almost certainly win, but would waste a lot of time and effort. So that concerns me somewhat. But again, like Neil said, that's probably more a problem for Red Hat to solve than it is Fedora. But it's the sort of thing that can suck the air out of a conversation very fast and can be used for negative publicity. So I do have some slight concerns about that. So there's my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks. All right, anyone from the CentOS board, how would you like to be engaged in this topic?
Are there decisions to be made that are that would differentiate between CentOS Stream and RHEL? Are there impacts that would be different?
Well, I think there would be some differences, right? And if I understand properly what you mean here, I think we do expect that the heavy lifting would be done at the RHEL side, right, internally, and this, since like it's almost one-to-one or one-to-one actually the code base, right? That would help. That's RHEL developers and Red Hat security teams would take care of the things, but we still need to publish security policy. We still need to follow process, and we still need to report about anything that is happening bad in CentOS. So I envision it will be something in the middle between the kind of community-driven practices in Fedora and the close partnership with Red Hat with CentOS. But of course, we need to talk about this in details.
Yeah, that's fair.
Happy to.
I guess there are cases where we might have impact on stuff that is shipped by our SIGs, which is not under RHEL engineering.
Scoping would be the big first exercise. Agree.
So David has his hand up, and he's actually on the board.
Well, so instantly I thought of what Neil said originally, which was that we do depend on outside resources, outside people to do some of that work around like the cloud deployments, etc. And I would like to see, I'd like to see a process that helps us to educate them as well. And very specifically, I think that there are, they're just generally I see this in my own space. There is a lot of information that goes into the education of the people who are involved in the process. And what I'm really hoping is that we have like some standardized education that we can even improve and build on as a part of our documentation to educate each other on these practices in a way that is consistent with our expectations around Red Hat.
Okay, so currently we've got one ticket and one tracker for the Fedora Council. Should there be a follow-on ticket somewhere in the CentOS space? How does Roman take a good next step with CentOS? Go ahead, David.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're, that the way we are all inviting Roman to be a part of the special interest groups, right? Each one of the SIGs is, I'm sure, excited to participate in ensuring that we have full support here. So, I mean, I would say if we have, like, as we come across things through our own education and also through our through the just happenstance, that we now know who, where our contact is inside of both CentOS and Fedora. I mean, that's the most important part, is that we have sort of a pivot from I don't know where to go to I know where to go. I mean, I like whether or not there's a ticket is not as deep a concern to me as that there's a point of contact and a procedure.
Oh.
Yeah, that's perfect suggestion, and I kind of clapped and put my heart on for the education and be on the same page, and also working with our partners that are outside of maybe other companies. We already working with them, but as Neil mentions, a few of them are behind the efforts that we are trying to push, but we of course going to be in alignment. For the CentOS specifically, we started this journey with Fedora first and foremost, and also in parallel with Ansible community as well, trying to pilot things and trying to understand how we can engage. And of course, we have already so many lessons learned. CentOS is the next step, and this is the only reason why I didn't engage yet with the community, because of the scalability problems, and because we wanted to kick off it with something and then iterate and then move on. What you say is kind of completely makes sense, and I have like preliminary roadmap that I would suggest how we go about the things, but of course it's all different. I already see it's different for all the communities, because all communities are working different. And you mentioned SIGs, and you mentioned probably other things that are not necessarily under control of the CentOS community. It could be something else that is attached to CentOS but is not governed, for example, by CentOS. Those are out of scope, for example. So we need to start with this scoping exercise. We need to start with the understanding how everything works, so that we can follow this work stream and work processes, not like inventing something new.
Okay, well, it sounds like then the right next step is to continue on with the Fedora Council engagement. And Roman, can we get a copy of the slides?
Yeah, of course. I will share it with you probably, and then you can share with others.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in the Jira ticket and then everyone can get to it.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
All right, then with that, I would like to encourage everybody, if you haven't already voted on the 2 questions about meeting time and cadence and timing, please do so now. Next week, we're going to revisit the sandbox topic with concrete things that we think we should run through sandboxes, or sure would have been nice to have had sandboxes for. Right, Roman, any closing thoughts or anything else that, like, oh yeah, this one last thing everybody needs to know?
Yeah, one last thing. So this is all complicated. I'm very glad that we are not that scared as we used to be. Like 1 year ago when I started this, everybody was, "What happened? Get your hands off communities." So now we're kind of trying to approach it in the meaningful way. So that's my only ask and kind of call to action is, let's collaborate together. Let's try to navigate it together. I am very curious to learn how things are done now, and already see the good security practices that are in the communities. So we just maybe need to tweak some things or maybe, you know, maybe you need some support from Red Hat engineers, or, you know, tooling wise or whatever. So that's all the spaces that we wanted to collaborate together, and I see it's the only way how to be successful with this CRA thing.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop the recording. And